2, 1. You're live.
Good evening once again, everyone. Welcome to the Fightnwords Network as we chat what's happening in the world of sports on each and every Wednesday night. And we'll have a great show for you, I think, tonight. So many things happening in the world of sports that we're going to get a chance to talk about it. Roger Hendler is in Atlanta as always, and young man in Tampa, Florida that's with us from day one, Roy Cummings, and we'll talk about so many different things. But first of all, our executive producer, Mr. Carl, has a comment or two.
Okay, first of all, we want to send our deepest sympathies out to the family of Claude Rameau, a tremendous hockey player who decided to end his life last week. We feel very bad about that for the family and his fans. And on a happier note, the Tampa Sports Hall of Fame is tonight. One of the inductees is a great player from the Bucks, Mr. Jimmy Giles, and a tremendous coach, Mr. John Tortorella. So we congratulate both of them on their Hall of Fame induction, and wish them many, many happy days.
No question about it. Congratulations to all, and let's get Roy right in here because we usually start with the National Hockey League, but tonight I want to go in a little bit different direction because the National Football League had some things happen in the last 24 hours. You find hard to believe the Los Angeles Rams, who like to put all their eggs in one basket and see if they can win it for a year, and they did exactly that. They put a lot of money in a major deal with Cleveland. And first of all, Roy, Garrett is a great player. He's at a perfect age, 28. Led the league in sacks last year and a real disruptor from one of the edges. But boy, did they give up a ton of stuff to come up with Mr. Garrett in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they sure did. But you know what? This is one of those trades that could actually, it could really work out very well for the Rams. I mean, they're going for it. I think they see a window, and it's closing with their quarterback. And as a result of that, I think you feel like, okay, what do we have to do to, just almost guarantee that we get a shot at this thing? And you look at their roster and you say, okay, where do they probably need the most help? They're pretty strong offensively, but defensively, they you got to be able to get after the quarterback. So they make this trade, and it's a big one. I mean, it's blockbuster as they come. So, arguably the best edge rusher in the game. They give up a solid one in their, in Jared Versa as well, but also a 2027 first-round pick, 28 second-round pick, a conditional third-round pick at 29. I mean, this is the cost of bringing in the defensive player of the year. So, but it's going to be big. I mean, this could really, shape the way for the Rams. So don't necessarily blame them for doing it. But it's clear now to me that they see the window closing on them, and they're concerned that with Matthew Stafford, they've got 2 years, maybe 3 at the most, and maybe not even that when you consider that they gave up 27 to 2027 first round pick, which they don't think is going to be very high anyway. That's one of the reasons that these picks are so high. First of all, you've got to get that back if you're Cleveland. But second of all, it would seem to me that the Rams are thinking, look, our 2027 first round pick arguably should be, 25 or later overall in the draft. Same with the 28 second round pick and the 29 third round pick. They think they're going to be there, at the top of the league in the next 2-3 years. And if they have Myles Garrett, they feel that almost guarantees that they'll be in that spot. So we'll see where it goes. But as blockbuster as they come, and it just tells you the Rams are going all in on the next 2 years. It may not be the last move they make. There may be a few more like this. Maybe not this big, but a few more moves that raise your eyebrows for sure coming up.
And Rodgers, we turn the corner to go back to some of the Eagles. They finally made a trade that they've been talking about for almost 3 months now. And A.J. Brown rejoins his former coach at Tampa, or not Tampa, but in Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee Titans. And so we're going to see Mr. Brown, as he couples up with a young second-year quarterback in May. Your thought about that? First of all, the trade from the Eagles. And second, is he going to be able to help they move into the top echelon of wide receivers in the National Football League to help them win?
Well, I think that's hopeful, with the Pats. But I think, he's obviously going to help them because he's a proven quantity, and quality. But the thing is, if you look at, I think, the last 2 years, he's been down, in production. And but I think, the Eagles probably got the best deal. They felt the best deal that they can get. Because the Pats, that number one in 28, that could be a low pick, and if the Pats are in the middle of the pack, literally, that could be a decent pick. And then they also got a second, I think, in 27, or fifth in 27, something like that. But only time will tell. But it's pretty difficult to beat Howie Roseman in the wheeling and dealing in the National Football League. I don't think there's very many clubs that wouldn't like to have him in the job that as general manager, because he really knows what to do. And I think he's got 3 first rounds next year. I think I heard that last night. So, or maybe in the next 2 years, it's 3. So anyway, he knows what he's doing, and I think we'll just have to wait and see. I hope A.J. Brown produces. But they did show a statistic of Jalen Hurts' production when A.J. Brown was not in games. And it is quite enlightening.
Well, we'll keep on moving. Go ahead.
Before we move on, Don, I'd like to comment a little bit on the trade. You probably have a Eagles writer coming up later in the show. But, look, I like this trade a lot for the Eagles. I really do. And the reason I say that is, if you ask around the National Football League, a lot of people think every year there's a team that does exceptionally well the season before, and then they drop. They drop significantly. And a lot of people think that this year that could be the Patriots, that they just had everything going for them late last year. They got hot at the right time, took advantage of some breaks, some good matchups. And right to the Super Bowl, they just really rode a really good, strong wave. And there's a lot of people who think that you look at the roster and you say, okay, it's a good roster, not a great roster. Quarterback's still got some developing to do. This is a team that could fall a little bit. And if it does, and I think this is a gamble that the Eagles put in. First of all, the Eagles have already revamped their entire wide receiver room. You bring in the kid Lemon out of USC. You love that pick. You got Dontaton Brown, you got him, you got Hollywood Brown, Wicks, and Brown in that room now. So you've got plenty of options there. A.J. Brown at that point, you don't need, the some of the hassles that he brings. Yes, he's a solid wide receiver, but he can be mercurial at times. Or, he can hurt your locker room a little bit sometimes. And so if the Patriots falter a little bit, this could end up being a really good pick for the Eagles coming up, and I think they get rid of a very good player, but also a player who you just kind of you got to keep an eye on. You got to make sure he doesn't destroy your locker room too. So I think it's a good trade for the Eagles. Most of the attention is going to go to the Patriots picking up what for them is the number one wide receiver, but I think the what doesn't look like a tremendous package coming back could work out real well for the Eagles. I think they saw, obviously, A.J. Brown as excess in a wide receiver room that looks really strong and a lot more youthful right now. I like what they're doing at that spot, and I like this trade for the Eagles a lot.
Before we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, game number 1 last night, we'll talk a little bit about Vincent Treyclough, or Treychek, I should say. They're really much in demand, 32-year-old center. Rangers obviously involved. The Toronto ready to make some moves, and he's one of the big names that's being talked about.
You talking about Vincent Trocheck?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's still, it's too soon for anybody to really go out there and get him just yet. But he'll definitely be one of the guys that gets a lot of interest. I think there's talk about Toronto, obviously, which would be he'd be a great fit there. They need somebody like him. The number of teams need someone like him. So yeah, he'll be highly sought after. He'll get paid off very well. But what's interesting, guys, is I'm seeing talk now about what the Maple Leafs are going to do in terms of a new coach, and I see Patrick Waugh's name in there. I see Laviolette on there. It's that's going to be an interesting place to watch in this offseason. They try to retool that team. Keep in mind, the one thing they've got to do in Toronto going forward here with finding a coach and finding players to fill the rosters, they got to somehow make Austin Matthews happy. Well, Austin Matthews has got at least a toe or two out the door, I think, after what's happened there over the last 2 years. With Marner going away, the team basically falling apart. Management being, completely turned inside out yet again. I think he's ready to. I think he's really close to moving on, and but I also think he wants to. I think he wants to get it done in Toronto. But in order to get there, they're gonna have to make Austin Matthews happy. So yeah, going after Vincent Trocheck, hiring a guy like Laviolette, maybe Patrick Waugh, that could make a big difference for them. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because a lot of conversation around the National Hockey League right now, even though we're taking them right at the beginning of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and a lot of anticipation there. So, but I don't know how much chance you've had, Roger, to look at the new idea. Bettman, I keep talking about Bettman coming up with ideas. The All-Star game, I don't know how much time you've had to research that a little bit, but there's going to be some All-Star celebration that they're going to have February 5th and February 6th. They're going to have a different kind of All-Star game, which they think is going to bring a lot more interest. Roger, I don't know how much time you've had to see it.
Well, no, I haven't seen much at all, to be honest with you. But I do think we've said many times that Gary Bettman has done, and you feel he's the best commissioner in major sports. I agree. And I think they come up with some very unique ideas. And it's not always an NFL idea that so many other sports have followed over the years. Roy, I just wanted to say one thing on that trade. Okay, that was my point about that it could be good and it may not. Who knows? Because of the Patriots. But remember, that first round is not until 28. So a lot of things happen in 2 years. That's not a 27 first rounder. So, they could fall and then come back. Yeah, right. So anyway, that was my point. Yeah, I agree with you, but I just wanted to make that.
No, it's a 27 first round pick. Oh, no, that's
no, it's 28.
You're right.
It's a 28.
28 first, 27 fifth.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I apologize. Either way, I think they were dealing from a position of strength, and so yeah, it's a good point. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, moving right on to the NHL and All-Star game.
Yeah, that's February 5th, February 6th, $2 million to the winners, $1 million to the they're going to have a whole bunch of different series of tests, skill tests, and so forth. The skill test, you're going to win $1 million if you win that one. Roy, you followed this National Hockey League since day one in Tampa. Bettman comes up with these ideas, but there are about 4 or 5 different ways they're going to go, and I'll tell you, it's going to be tough to follow.
Well, I think it's good. Yeah, we'll see, but it's going to be fun. Look, they're basically trying to make a mini 4 Nations tournament out of the All-Star game, and I think what's really interesting here, guys, is that you're going to have obviously a U.S. team, a Canada team, a Sweden team, and you're going to have this world team, which is going to allow some of the Russian players to be involved, and I think that is really where it gets interesting. When you've got one of the things that was missing from the 4 Nations, one of the things that was clearly missing from the Olympics, was players like Nikita Kucherov, Andrei Vasilevsky. Take your pick of any Russian star that couldn't play in those tournaments. Well, now they're going to get a chance to shine in the All-Star game against Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States. So I think it makes for a really interesting tournament. What I think, what's going to be interesting is, okay, how do the players take it? Do they get as amped up for this as they did the Four Nations tournament? Did they get as amped up as this for the Olympics? Probably not that level, but if they can somehow come close to getting as excited for this as they did with the Four Nations.
Well, the skill level for $1 million. The skill level for $1 million.
Well, that, you know what? And in the NHL, that's where the top players are making, $9 to $13 million. That could mean a real lot for somebody, depending on, who it is that's in there. I mean, I got to think you're going to have some players, they're probably making, $2-3 million, and that $1 million paycheck could really be a big boost to them financially. So usually the money incentives usually this day and age don't mean a lot to professional athletes, but I think in the NHL, depending on who the athlete is, it could mean a great deal. So, but still, more than anything though, I'm just anxious to see, what the intensity level is for these guys playing in this round robin event, with the world team, the U.S. team, and everything else. You know darn well that if the Kachucks are involved, and they certainly will be for the U.S. if they're healthy, one of those guys is going to go out there and in essence force whoever their opponent is to play on the edges. So we'll see what goes. But you're right. I think Gary Bettman's done a great job here. He's made some really interesting decisions with this, and hopefully it'll work out for the league.
Roger, you and I talked very briefly earlier this afternoon about last night's game. You said you saw most of it. I saw it all. I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive Roy saw it all. But so we'll let you come on that one first, and we're going from top to bottom.
Well, I'll tell you, I thought it was very interesting because of the way it went up and down. And that's what they were talking about. I mean, there was so much happening in a short period of time that one would get the lead and look like a substantial lead, and then Vegas came back to win. Towards the end, and it was an amazing game to watch. And what was also interesting after seeing John Tortorella in like a sweat outfit, not a sweat, but a nice good looking jacket and everything with the Flyers, totally different to see him back behind the bench in a suit. So, but I'll tell you, I think getting that team, as you have said, Roy and Don, that Vegas team is to be reckoned with, and I think that Carolina's got a real tough chore on their hands.
Roy?
Yeah, if they didn't think that already, which I'm sure they did, they certainly found it out last night. Look, what I was impressed with the most was how Vegas came back, because they were clearly down and out after 10 minutes there. And I mean, that rush early on that Carolina put on, scoring a couple of goals early on, just as they did against Montreal. And that put Montreal out. That knocked them out. They couldn't come back. But Vegas clearly is on the same level as Carolina. And as we saw last night, they were able to come back. And I think what last night's game showed more than anything is just how close these teams are. I think they're both built very much the same way. They play a similar style. They're both defensive-oriented teams first, but there's enough speed and scoring potential up front to make it really interesting. And the goaltending on both sides, I think it's a little bit better than adequate. It's not exceptional. So you're going to see some, what in essence maybe some bad goals, and what that means, I think, is that you're going to see some. What for the Stanley Cup playoffs would be considered maybe some high-scoring games, 5-4, 6-5. I think you're going to see that consistently through the playoffs. So, but again, there were not a lot of shots last night, but 9 goals off a game that produced about 40 total shots. So, I thought it was really a great exhibition of hockey, and I think fans are in for a great series here going forward.
Well, I thought the triumphant between periods did an excellent job. As the course always does, I think. I know, Roger, you like to look at a couple different between period shows and see what different analysts have to say. But I thought that the one thing that they emphasized more than anything else was puck protection. And it was 3-3 at the end of, 2 periods. And each one of the experts said this could be the weakest protection of the puck of any Stanley Cup playoffs we've seen. They don't protect the puck. They just throw it out there and let something happen. And that's why the score was 3-3. And they were very critical of the way it was being executed by these two coaches. And I'll come to another point in a minute, that these two coaches, the way they approached this game and the way the players were playing it. Roy?
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I think, I think what happened was, first of all, Carolina takes the lead on the first shot on goal. Not a great shot. I think the goalie was probably screened a bit on it. But
25 seconds on the second period, too.
Yeah.
Both periods.
Yeah. But I think what happened there was I think when something like that happens and you fall behind that quickly, first of all, from the offensive standpoint, for the team that scored, you start to feel really comfortable and like, hey, we could put this thing away in a hurry. And so you get away from your style a little bit. Vegas, it was the other way around. It's like, okay, watch out. We can't let this happen to us. So maybe we need to take some chances early on. I think what happened is both teams, for whatever reason, just got away from their system a little bit and spent a little bit too much time trying to create some things that maybe weren't there for themselves. But you know what?
More than a little bit, Roy. More than a little bit.
Okay, well, it's still tight, but I'll tell you what. You know what? I don't care about puck protection. That game was really entertaining. It was 5-4. It was back and forth, as Roger said, up and down hockey. It was really good, some good hitting. I thought it was well played for the most part. Yeah, the coaches will, they'll get with their teams and they'll tighten it up tomorrow, I'm sure. But you probably don't want to see them tighten it up too much, guys, because as I said, we're in the 25 to 50 shot range here total, and 25 for each team. So not a whole lot of shots on goal. So you don't want it to get too much. You don't want to have too much time spent in the neutral zone. You want to see the come through. I thought it was a really good game from a fan perspective. Maybe not as we played as coach.
Shut up.
Brindamore would want, but look for that to change going forward.
Well, the one thing that Tortorella would not do 2 days ago, he would not. They asked him to make some comparisons between Brindamore and himself, and he said, "I don't talk about the other team." And
there's 3 on the
nothing to
chair.
say, but then he did come out the next day and say a little bit about the style of play. And you watched Tortorella a lot more than I have. You saw him win the Stanley Cup down with the Lightning. It just didn't make sense to me that the defenseman, when they had the breakaway, there's nobody there. Where were these defensemen in this game?
Well, well, that's a good question. I'd have to really break it down to tell you, but go goal by goal and see where the mistakes were. But look, one thing you have to do, and one thing John Tortorella encourages, is he encourages his defensemen to become a big part of the offensive attack.
And block shots. Shots.
Right. Well, it's hard to block a shot when a guy's skating in alone. Okay? You're not going to block that. That's what
I'm saying. You got no defenseman back there. You're not going to block anything.
Yeah. Well, again, go look at the shots on goal, guys. They weren't that high. I would not go so far as to say the game was sloppy from a defensive standpoint. I don't think Tortorella is upset. I'm sure he's very happy if he won the game.
Absolutely.
Where were the defensemen? Yeah, maybe pinching up a little bit, but you know what? The speed of that game was exceptional. You're going to get exposed a little bit. Everybody's going to be, caught out of position a little bit here and there. It's going to happen. That's part of the game, and it happened on Carolina's side too. So as I said, both teams have some work to do defensively to make sure that they're a little bit tighter through in game 2 and throughout the rest of the series. And I think both coaches will emphasize that in their meetings and practices over the next 24 hours. So, look for tomorrow to be a little bit tighter. But again, you don't want it to be too tight, guys, because as I said, this is a real entertaining game. And I wouldn't be complaining about, a couple of defensive foibles here and there on either side.
Roger Brendamore's been, and really Tortorella's been the same way in the sense that, as Roy just said, defense has been the name of their game. And all they talked about last night was
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
All right.
Good. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, I feel fine.
Good
now.
Yeah.
I'm resilient.
Okay, good. I'll put your mic live, and we're just finishing up with Roy.
Okay, sure.
And after the game, been pregame. I happened to be in a restaurant catching a sandwich last night, and I got to see, I guess it was the pregame from the NHL Network. And I don't watch. I don't even know if I have it, the NHL Network. But I'll tell you, I was really impressed. And I don't know if you guys watch the NFL Network at all in the pregame. But I was really impressed with the 4 guys that are on there. They're well-known hockey players, but not like Fox or I'm sorry, TNT or ABC. With the talent that they have, with the Great One, SCA, etc. But I don't know if you guys, Roy, do you watch the NHL Network pregame ever?
Oh yeah, I watch the NHL Network a lot on a regular basis. Yeah,
I didn't know whether you saw their pregame show last night. I thought it was very enlightening.
No, I did not. I watched the ESPN pregame show. I watched the point because I like it and I wanted to see how ESPN handled it. I thought they did a great job.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't disagree with that. I thought they did a pretty good job. I don't think you can complain about ESPN in this regard. All right, let's get a quick note on baseball. Roy, the Rays have gotten off to a great start, and now they sort of hit a little bit of a slide. Give us an interpretation. Can they maintain staying up at the top? Maybe not in first place, but staying up at the top of the American League East.
I think they can because again, it's not a team that's really reliant on power to win. They don't. They have there's a lot of ways you can score in this game, and they seem to exhaust them all, with the exception of the power. I mean, they've got a couple of power bats, but not a great deal. But to me, you're less susceptible to slumps that way. There's a lot of ways to go out there and make create runs, and I think they can do that. They got hit a little bit. They got beat up a little bit yesterday. Steven Matson, who's just struggled throughout the entire season. And last year as well, a little bit at times. Tigers came in who've not been good on the road and really, took control of that game early on. They got a 2-1 lead again tonight. So, look, teams come and go. The streaks come and go. And I think the Rays will be fine. They have a really good, solid approach to the game, and it's not relying on power, which I think is good for them. And they've already shown that they can beat the best in their division. So I think they seem to have a little bit of a number for the Blue Jays. I think they got a number on the Yankees, and so I feel good about their chances. Yeah, I think they can. I think they can continue to stay in this playoff race. I think they will. Again, pitching's really strong throughout. You haven't heard a lot of the names, but as always, they seem to find a way to make it happen.
Hey, Don, before we let Roy go, I forgot to add one of the names to congratulations this evening, and that's the NHL Coach of the Year, Mr. John Cooper.
Did you catch that, Roy?
Yeah. I saw it earlier today, and thanks for mentioning it, Frank, because that's the award that a lot of people have been wondering, how has he not won that? And he wins it this time, and I think, you know what, rightfully so. Look, you can pick a lot of. I thought Marty St. Louis was deserving of it, maybe even a little bit more. But I will say this: I thought John Cooper did his best coaching job yet this year because of the challenges that he faced as a result of losing his top 3 defensemen midway through the season, being without, Steven Stamkos, obviously, losing Kucherov for a little bit, losing Braden Point for an extended period of time. The injuries really hurt this team. They didn't hurt them because, again, I think John Tortorella just did an exceptional job of bringing in new bodies and getting them to adapt exceptionally well to his system. And you know what? It's as a system.
You're talking about Coop, though. You're talking about Coop, Dan, and not Tortorella. You're talking
No, Coop.
Coop brought these young players along.
Yeah.
Right. I think Tortorella, I meant John Cooper, but
Right.
But what he did was, and again, I think it's an organizational thing. John Cooper's going to get the award, but I think the organization, you have to keep in mind that the organization is playing the same system throughout the minor leagues, and so when these guys come up, they're already in tune with what they're doing, so they know what they're being asked of. And also on a team like the Lightning, a young kid comes up, he knows he's going to be playing a role, a third or fourth line, or third or fifth or sixth defense pair, role. And if they're willing to accept that, usually that player is going to succeed. And so you put it all together, and they found a way this year, and they were really strong, but they got some issues, guys. There's no doubt about that because they can't get out of the first round of the playoffs all of a sudden. So definitely agree with the call on Cooper getting the Jack Adams Award. Good for him. Certainly earned it, as I said. I think it was his best coaching job yet, at least throughout the regular season.
Yeah, we talked about it as the season was unfolding and constantly went back to those injuries you're talking about, Roy, and the fact that he was able to overcome and do a lot of different things and then, go off the beam and coach over in Canada there to the Canadian team and then come back and start the league again. A lot of things happened during the course of the season, and he overcame most all of them except couldn't get to the finals of the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
Roger? I don't know where Roger went.
No, I was just going to say, I was listening to you fellas. I was just going to say, I wonder how much consideration Rick Tocchet got. Because there's a guy that really brought a team back and made it into the second round of the playoffs. So there were a lot of great coaching jobs this past year in the league, I think.
Won't disagree. Roy, we're just out of time in this half hour. Thank you so very, very much as always. And we tried to touch on a number of different things. I know we probably missed a couple, but thanks a lot for getting us up to date.
Thanks, Roy.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it as always.
Have a great week, Roy. Take care.
All right. You guys take care. Bye.
All right. Doug Fernandez is going to join us here in just a couple of seconds. And we can talk anything we want with Doug because he's covered it all for the last 40 years or so for the Trib. And Doug Fernandez, are you there, ready to go?
I'm always ready to go. As long as you're in the cockpit, I'm your co-pilot. No, I mean, obvious topic here is the Patriots have got their wide receiver, and the Eagles got a couple of pretty good draft picks.
We talked a little bit about that, Doug, in the first half hour, but I knew you'd be right with it because May's got himself. He didn't really have a great wide receiver fleet last year. They were 13, something like 30. Fifth or sixth.
You need
and so your thoughts on the move and the trade and getting Brown into New England?
Well, they had to replace. Yeah, they got Stephon Diggs to be the number one guy last year. They thought he would be, and he showed flashes, but he kind of disappeared in the playoffs, and he's 32 years old, so he was kind of long to do. So they had to replace him. They had to really get a number one receiver, and this deal was talked about for a while. I mean, last month, at the beginning of May, there was talk, even before that, of the Patriots trading for him. It just had to get to June 1st, for contract implications. But once that happened, it was kind of a done deal. Listen, Drake, you can never have too many wide receivers. Listen, when Tom Brady was the quarterback there, and Brady was there for basically almost 20 years, he had a collection of wide receivers. But, they were guys like Edelman, Wes Welker, Deion Branch, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan. He had Randy Moss for 2 years. But even that was at the tail end of Moss's career. So Drake May now and A.J. Brown has a legitimate number one receiver to look for. He's 29 years old, but I saw a picture of him at his first Patriots practice. I saw it online, the Boston Globe, and it was an up-close look at this guy. This guy is cut. This guy is like 6'1", 210. I saw his forearms. I saw his biceps. I thought I was looking in the mirror for a second when I saw him.
Whose mirror? You must have been in the clown house.
It was a perfect mirror, exactly. But the guy is huge. He knows Rabel from his days at Tennessee. And listen, I think it's a great deal. If you're an Eagles fan, you have to realize that you gave up something, but man, you got a lot in return. They got a number one draft pick. I know the Patriots, if they're good, the draft pick might not be top 10 or 20, but to get a first-round pick for a 29-year-old wide receiver, a guy plays, he's a weapon, but he plays farthest away from the football, right? We're not talking about getting a quarterback or an ace running back here. It's a great, but I'll tell you what it does. They're going to have to double him, teams, opponents, right? They're going to have to either bracket him or have a safety over the top. And that's just going to open it up for the other Patriot wide receivers. Keshawn Booty, they weren't the best, but they were okay. But this guy just elevates them. And I think both sides are going to be happy. Philadelphia and New England has to be happy with this trade. A trade isn't good unless both sides are happy, and I think both sides are.
Roger?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Doug. I think both sides are happy. As we were saying with Roy, it's a 28th first-round pick, so a lot can happen in 2 years, and a lot of deals could be made using that pick. Who knows? The Eagles could. And then they got a 5th round into the 27 draft. So you don't know at the 5th round. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of mediocre, and there's bad ones. So I agree with you, and I think they knew this was going to happen. They had to make the deal. That's why they knew they were going to make it when they drafted the kid from Southern Cal.
Well,
so I mean, it was good.
And what I like is that I like his comment. He basically said that I think he was quoted as saying, this isn't heaven, but it's close to it. Now, I don't know what that means if you're a professional athlete. You play football in another organization, but I think he feels wanted here. I don't know the situation in Philadelphia, but he knows that he's got a great young quarterback. The one thing about Drake May, that if you saw him last year, he's incredibly accurate. He puts the ball on a dime all the time. And I think you're going to see a quick rapport develop between Brown and May. I think Brown's going to make May a better quarterback. And I think May, if he could possibly elevate Brown as a wide receiver, I think it's going to happen there. He blocks. He's willing to block, which is key in the run game. A lot of wide receivers don't like to block, but the guy looks like a tight end. And the Patriots have already said, Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, that this guy might have the physical impact of a Rob Gronkowski. Now, if you remember when Rob Gronkowski played, we're talking about a 6'7", 265-pound tight end. But when he played, he was physical. He knocked defensive backs over. He pushed guys back. And I think Brown is going to be that kind of wide receiver, a very physical wide receiver. And I think he's going to help the wide receiving room, the rest of the wide receivers play that way. So I think it's a win-win for the Patriots. They gave up a lot, But hey, Patriot fans, most fans don't care about 2 years down the road, right? They want to win right now. They care about today, and A.J. Brown helps them win today.
Dougie also has the benefit of having played for Vrabel before for 2 years when he was the coach at Tennessee, so he knows what he's getting for his money.
Well, listen, apparently, from what I read, everybody likes to play for Vrabel now. He's just a player's coach. I know we had that thing with that reporter, and I had some friends I was talking to up in Boston. They were thinking, oh, he might get fired. And I'm like, listen, unless they have photos of him in the nude running around with this woman in a hot tub, nothing's going to happen. The worst is over. He's going to keep his job. But it's amazing. In this society, he appeared up in New England a few days ago for something, somewhere, and they gave him an ovation, like a standing ovation. And, I'm old school. The guy was caught screwing around on his wife, his family. You're going to give the guy a standing ovation because he got your football team to the Super Bowl last year? There has to be a line that's drawn. Don't you think that if a guy does that kind of thing, just sit there and don't do anything. But don't stand up and give him a standing ovation like he just cured cancer. I disagree with that. But, yes, it's me.
Roger?
Yeah, I agree with that, Doug. And I'm just wondering because he went to Salt Lake City for counseling. And obviously, that's the head of the Mormon church, the LDS. So I'm just wondering if he and his wife are members. And that's why they went there.
No, they're not Mormon. They're not Mormon. That was a bunch of crap. He said, I got to go get counseling. And I got to miss the second day of the draft. Well, what place offers counseling on a Saturday? That's the day he missed. So it's like, I got to go get counseling on a Saturday? That was just a pile of crap. That was
but he went to Salt Lake City. I mean,
well, I listen,
backyard.
But I don't doubt that he went. But the fact that he had to miss a day of the draft and he had to do it that quickly, I mean, it's all a ruse. It's all a public relations stunt. I mean, come on. I'd like to know. I'll tell you what I'd like to know. I'd like to know the discussions him and his wife had stores. I'd like to hear the reaming out that she gave him. That's what I'd like to have heard. They're still together, but you're not going to divorce your husband, I guess, if he leads the team to the Super Bowl. So but I thought that whole situation was pretty unseemly. It seemed like the New York Post was putting photos anytime they were just hunting for photos of this guy and this reporter, and they were just plastering on the front page, So, but that's the society we live in, and the journalism.
Those papers, buddy. Those papers.
Hey, did you not to change the subject at all? Did you see where Scott Pelkey, the guy from 60 Minutes, was fired because he got out and he basically criticized 60 Minutes now about how they're a shabby, it's a shabby news organization, and they want him to use false sources and they want him to use unsubstantiated stuff. So they fired him, and he went loco on this. Journalism is a lot different, guys, than it used to be. Years ago, a guy like Vrabel and his wife thing, that might have tried to been hushed a little bit. But now you can't put it on enough papers, stuff like that.
Listen,
Doug, go ahead, Roger.
I'll give you a perfect example, Doug, real quick. One of my old customers' son, he's now the NCAA compliance officer at Fordham. He was at Georgetown. When the coach, Patrick Ewing, came there, he was doing some things that he was used to doing when he was a player, etc. Okay? And his name is Chris, my friend's son. He had to take him aside, and he says, Coach, you can't do this. And he laid it out, what he couldn't do. And he said, what do you mean? He says, I always did. He says, don't you understand now? Social media, you say something, and it's all over the world in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, like Jackson Dart. I mean, come on. Some of these guys are just fools. I mean, I don't care whether you're a Trumper or you're not a Trumper. I mean, don't put yourself politically out like that. And he alienated several of his teammates and a couple of them came out publicly. Who knows who else didn't like that? But you in this polarized society, and social media contributes to it. You can't do those sort of things. You're really going to watch yourself. And, we've had coaches down here. John Peacock, the Venice High coach, tweeted something out a few years ago, and then he pulled it right back. But it's impossible. You tweet something out, it's there for a second, people take a screenshot of it, and even if you delete it, it's there for people have it forever. So you really have to watch yourself. And the media, exactly, they are like sharks swimming, looking for fresh meat when it comes to stuff like that.
No doubt.
Doug Fernando is our special guest this half hour, and Doug, let's go from the East Coast to the West Coast, talk about the Patriots, but let's go out there where the Super Bowl is going to be played and see what the Rams are doing, because man, oh man, you talk about a big deal. There is the deal for you.
Well, they picked up Myles Garrett, and all I know from Myles Garrett is every time he played against the Patriots, he tormented them. So yeah, he's a deluxe pass rusher. But you're going to see more deals, I think. Now that this June, a lot of this June thing has to do with salary bonuses being paid and just a lot of money being transacted. You're going to wait until after June 1st. But I think you're going to see other deals. You don't see big deals in football very much. You don't see them in baseball very much. You should see huge deals, 10, 11, 12-player deals. But salaries make that impossible now, that they can't do that. But I'm trying to think of the last big football trade. I'm just thinking off my cuff here. When's the last big football trade you guys remember? Not a trade among players, not a draft pick. But when's the last time you can remember one player going one place and another player going another place? A big trade.
I got to agree with you. To be honest with you, I can't think of one right off the top of my head for big players. Roger, can you think of somebody else?
I agree. I just wanted to let you know that Christopher Sanchez so far has got 4 points, 4 1/3 innings of more scoreless pitching for the Phillies, which is phenomenal. I mean, what he's done. But no, I haven't thought of any big name. And I'm thinking of the old days where you had the big trade, Smokey Burgess for Andy Semenuk, and back in the 50s. And then even later on when the Phillies made some big deals.
Yeah, but I'm thinking football. I mean, I can think of a lot of baseball trades, but I'm thinking of a big football trade that happened.
I'll tell you the one, Doug, that I was thinking because of the Rams. When they got Stafford in the deal with Detroit on a swap of quarterbacks.
They traded Stafford for Jared Goff.
Yeah, it did. That was the trade. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, man. You want to talk about a trade? I mean, Jared Goff had a career, but Matthew Stafford is his Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame. Yeah, you don't see trades of football players that much. I think it's because of maybe the salary cap, but who knows? But no.
Also, Doug, the length of contract. I mean, most of these players, you really have to be something to get any kind of a long-term contract in the National Football. Most of them are 2 and 3 year deals where you can buy out. So it's hard to make that kind of a trade that you were talking about with a player like Garrett today would be a perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the contracts today in the NFL, if it's a 7-year deal, you realize this guy isn't going to see year 4 of this deal. This team is not going to have this guy in 4 years. That's why a lot of it, that's just for cap purposes, and a lot of the money is front-loaded, where he's getting the money. He's going to get the money while he's on the team, while he's playing, So
right.
The tail end years are just to space it out over the salary cap purposes. But, you want to talk about baseball. I started off watching the Red Sox, okay, because I get them online. I get them free here every game. So I started off trying to watch them. They are unwatchable. The American League is pathetic. You take away the Rays, you take away the Yankees, most of these teams are below 500 or 500. They're trash. And I watch these players play. And listened, you guys have watched baseball. I've watched enough baseball for 10 lifetimes. These guys don't make the routine play. They can't make the routine play. They don't make the good throw to home plate. The throw is up the line, the third base line or first base line. These guys have no knowledge of when to go from first to third when the ball is right in front of them and play. You know, they don't have the baseball wherewithal that the players had before. And I think it's all because they concentrate so much on hitting the baseball that these other fundamental things go by the wayside. I mean, I'm beside myself when a ground ball goes to the third baseman and then he throws the ball in the dirt and he has all day to throw it. I'm like, what's going on here? I can't watch them anymore because nothing happens in these games. Nothing happens.
Roger?
Well, there was a good play last night, and that was perfect analogy, Doug. I'll tell you, the way you just assessed the core, baseball play, basic baseball play. Last night there was a slow chopper to Alec Bone at third base. There was no way he was going to get it to first base. And what he did was he was smart. He turned around, flipped it over to Stott, and then they caught him, the runner, between second and third because he had taken too big of a lead.
So Roger, they didn't just do it on one play. They did it on two. When he tried to score from third, they got him caught between home and third, and they got him caught between second and third because they don't know how to run the bases.
They don't. Yeah, exactly. But that's basic.
But they don't know how to run the bases. Exactly. Like the Red Sox. They've had 11 guys already thrown out at the plate. 11 this season. I mean, that's why your third base coach is sending you, expecting you to score, and you don't score. I mean, the coaching is terrible. That's after they fired Cora. So they got a new coaching staff up there. And then maybe the third base coach, should be coaching first base, which doesn't require any responsibilities. But no, the level of play of basic baseball, and you don't see the plays we used to see. I haven't seen a bunt. I have not seen a squeeze bunt in 20 years. I have not seen a suicide squeeze. I've seen a safety squeeze last week, but I've not seen a suicide squeeze. I saw a double steal a couple of days ago. I don't see that. And these pitchers don't want to throw strikes, or they're incapable of throwing strikes.
We saw blood last night. We saw runners on first and second, and a beautiful bunt down the third base. Finally beat it out for a base hit. They had the bases loaded and nobody account, and had a tough time scoring any runs. I mean, it's unbelievable. They get the bases loaded, or they get second and third. They can't score runs from it. I mean, they can't put the ball in play.
Well, they don't. It seems like to me, they don't change their approach at all. Like if you have a guy on third base, I mean, your number one task is to get that guy in. I mean, get that guy in with a fly ball. Get that guy in with anything. But these guys still seem like they're trying to jack the ball over the fence, and they get 2 strikes. There's no such thing as shortening up anymore. There's no such thing as trying to punch the ball somewhere. They're still trying to take Herculean swings. And I've seen it so many times. The Red Sox many times have had the bases loaded. No out, 1 out. And they don't get anybody in because these guys don't put the ball in play. And it's infuriating to watch. I can't believe it's just happening with the Red Sox. I gotta believe that's a problem around baseball. Because they all have
in Philadelphia, I guarantee you that. It's definitely been a problem in Philadelphia for 3 years, Roger.
That's right. And they've got a right fielder who they finally have a good defensive right fielder, and he's hitting 196. But I just saw that he's 1 for 2 tonight. That's amazing. He finally got a hit.
Hey, it doesn't make a difference. You can bat 200, but if you have, at this point, 11 home runs and 30 ribbies, they don't even look at the average anymore, right? The guy's hitting 20, but it's like, the guy's got 11 home runs already, and he's got 33 ribbies, but his on-base percentage is like, 320, right? But it's like, who cares? Because he can jack the ball over the fence. That's what baseball has become, and I really am down on it. I'm sorry, I'm an old man. Maybe I'm down on everything now, but it's like, I'm just really I remember the way the game used to be played. I mean, every facet of the game was used. And now you don't see half of those things anymore,
Is he done at the
Roger?
AC?
No, you're not alone.
Has he
Doug.
done it at
We've
AC?
had Chris Wheeler on.
Has he done it at the
we're all
AC
in the
place?
same boat because
The air
we're
conditioning?
in the same age
Oh, I
group,
thought,
and we're used to seeing well
Yeah,
played
his first
baseball, basic skills, and
Oh.
just you don't see because, like Don said, in football the contracts are limited. But look at how
I don't know which
tough
one
the
it is now.
Phillies
I
are
guess the
about
AC.
making any deal because that's how long the contracts are for their stars
He's losing it.
and the amount of money.
Well, listen, there's only a few organizations that can really afford that kind of money. I mean, I watched the series with the Kansas City Royals.
No, he's making more
last
hours
week
here.
with the Red Sox. And I'm looking at all their guys in their lineup, and I'm like, will any of these guys be remembered in 5 years? Will any of these guys be on the roster in 5 years? Because none of these guys, I mean, they're just guys filling out the lineup. It just seems like there's so many guys around the league who you'll never hear about these guys in 10, 20 years. There's no Hall of Fame candidates that I see besides the obvious ones, Judge and Trout and Ohtani and Ramirez at Cleveland, who's been there forever. But when I look around baseball right now, I just see a bunch of guys who are just playing the game that won't be memorable. 100 years ago, every team had a Brooks Robinson or a Boone Powell, or the Red Sox had Yastrzemski or Reggie Smith, or the Yankees. Every team had potential Hall of Famers or really great players. I look around baseball now, and it's just like, well, who are these guys? I just don't see it like I used to.
I can't disagree. It's just and as you said, batting averages now or something. I mean, they put that graphic up so quickly and take it down because, as Roger said a minute ago, Crawford may come out there and he's hitting 179. Had one hit his last 20 times up or whatever. I mean, they don't even put it up anymore because it doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's why nothing happens, because you got guys hitting 220. If a guy is hitting 220, he's not putting the bat on the ball very much. He's not getting base hit. So if you have a bunch of guys hitting 220 or 230, you're not going to see much action because they suck. They're not putting the ball in play. They're not getting base hits. They're not playing the game. But these guys, is this the best they have? I mean, I see a lineup of 220 hitters. I'm like, doesn't average mean anything anymore?
No, absolutely not.
I guess it doesn't. If you can jack it, that's all that matters.
Roger.
Marsh is leading the league in hitting, I believe, still in the 320s, and it might be Major League Baseball. Weren't we talking about that a couple of weeks ago? I think with Chris.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it was the Crawford, wasn't it, Don? That got the bunt last night. They get on, and then they were.
That's who it was.
But you watch guys now. I mean, you talk about a bunt. I watch guys try to bunt, just set up the bunt, and I'm like, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. How you bunt. You're gonna catch the ball with the bat to make it up. These guys are jabbing at the ball. The ball is flying foul up in the air. They get 2 strikes, and now they can't bunt. And I'm like, why can't a major league player bunt?
But Doug, also a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember. I see so many games I can't remember. But Mattingly did a whole thing on his post-game show with the Phillies because he had runners in scoring position, and I'm almost sure it was the catcher that was the one that was at the plate. And they said, well, why weren't you bunting? Why? It's the 9th inning or the 10th. It wouldn't even been the 10th inning. It was late in the game. Why aren't you bunting? And his whole thing is, after everybody, all the criticism from all the writers about, you're not bunting. And Mattingly's answer was, I never put my player in a position to do something that he can't do.
Well, that's a not so subtle dig, right? At the player and his fundamental ability, and he can't even lay a bunt down.
That's right.
Mattingly has been a good manager and was a great ball player. Probably should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man. That's an interesting discussion. Had he played a couple more years, I'd say yes. But his career was cut short by that back. that bad back, you know. But
I'll tell you, it was
what a player.
fellas, it was embarrassing last night watching the game because it was the anniversary of Lou Gehrig.
Right.
And Lou Gehrig's disease and so forth. And the number was worn by all the players all around baseball. And when they put his numbers up there, and you looked at those numbers. I mean, if they got players down in 5 years, wouldn't have the numbers he had in 1 year. I mean,
he is still. I know you guys are gonna get going. He is still. If you're looking for an all-time team, he is still my first baseman. After all these years,
absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And they don't.
That movie was one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And they don't have. I mean, the Hall of Fame now is. I mean, really, and I don't know about other sports. I can't speak of but in baseball, the people that put in the Hall of Fame are so marginal players. I mean, I'm talking about marginal Hall of Fame players. They were good players, not Hall of Fame players.
Well, I mean, the bar has to be lowered because if you don't, you won't elect anybody in.
That's right. You're exactly right.
I mean, Harold Baines is in there. Harold Baines made it 3 or 4 years ago. Harold Baines, a very good player, but he's not a Hall of Fame player. Is Scott Rowland a Hall of Fame player? Maybe. You know, the ex-third baseman for the Phillies. Right?
Very marginal. Very marginal.
I would think. But you're right, Don. You're not going to see Hall of Fame classes like you saw before of guys like Yastrzemski and Robinson and Thurman. I mean, any of those guys. No, you won't see that. You're going to see guys get in less than 200 victories even. I think you're never going to see a 300-game winner again. You're going to see Hall of Famers with less than. They're already talking about Chris Sale, a potential Hall of Famer. Chris Sale has got like 185 victories, and they're talking about Hall of Fame for that guy. So,
Yes, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
A good week?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. All right, I'm going to put you live, and we'll get you right in.
Okay.
For pitchers that wins 20 games in one season?
listen, Jim Palmer won 20 games, 7 straight years.
You're never going to see it.
Oh, you're never going to see that. You're right, Don. Because if these guys pitch 5 innings, their job is done, and then the game could be lost from then on if you're not going to complete it. But yeah, if you pitch 5 innings, you're getting $30 million a year, and you're sitting on top of the world. You know, so.
Well,
boy.
Robin Roberts 6 straight years, wasn't it, or was it 8? Winning 20 games, were very marginal, not really a good team, and he did it and complete games.
Look at Steve Carlson, won 27 games for a team that won 55, I think, all year or whatever.
Yeah,
60 or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Doug, so always a pleasure, my boy. Take care of everything down there in South Florida, and we'll keep the rain away, keep the hurricanes away, and we'll get back with you as we take a little summer vacation with the show. But we'll be back in August and start all over again. So we'll get back with you then.
God willing, I'll hear you guys again.
All of it.
Thanks, Doug.
Doug, take care. God bless.
Take care.
Don, I like the extension of the vacation, but we're coming back on the 6th of July.
I got your email.
Yeah, you just said August.
I wasn't sure you'd be able to recoup by August.
He was thinking of you, Commander.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Mike Zimzak and Doug Hamilton are where Mike, of course, soccer expert and so much going on in the world of soccer right now. And Doug Hamilton we got an event going, the Jack Nicklaus tournament at Memorial this weekend at Warfield Village. Really, they consider this to be the second most difficult course on the tour that is not a major, that is not the Open, which the Open comes up 2 weeks from now. And they figure the Jack Nicklaus course at Muirfield is the second most difficult course that they play other than a major tournament. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and as well as what's happening in the world of soccer, because so many things are happening in the world of soccer. And let me first of all start off with,
Mike isn't here yet. Mike's not here yet.
Oh, Mike's not here yet. Okay. Is Doug there?
Our
Okay,
professional golfer is, yes. Master professional golfer, sir.
PGA
Master
professional. Please, let's get this correct.
All right.
Master professional.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever played Muirfield or not, but it must be. And I got to say myself, I've never been out there in Ohio with Muirfield, but it must be one wonderful course, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, there was I forget. I was having lunch the other day in between lessons, and they had a program on that was Jack Nicklaus talking about the modifications that he made. I mean, in one case, he was talking about how he moved a tee box back 12 yards. You know what I mean? Like, it was that detailed in terms of what it was that he was, talking about with the reshaping of his golf course. So it's a pretty big deal. Obviously, the players on tour relish the fact that they get the opportunity to play, in a tournament that's hosted by Jack Nicklaus. And they really talk highly about, the golf course. And
Hello?
Please leave your message for 2.
That hospital from ground up. His foundations are the one that maintain that hospital, and it's becoming more and more a hospital of success than almost any, other than St. Jude's. He's right there with them.
yeah, I mean, Jack Nicklaus was an Ohio State Buckeye, and that whole area in which he has his golf course, and he just, that area means an awful lot to him, from his development and his, all of the things that made him, in my opinion, the best golfer that ever lived. So it's a very important thing for him. He's done quite a wonderful job of giving back to that whole entire area and community. So it's a pretty big deal.
No question about it. Roger?
Does he still live out there, or does he reside in Florida?
I think he lives in Florida, to be honest.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, from Tiger in Jupiter.
Yeah, he lives over at Bentry.
Okay.
Bentry in Jupiter.
Yeah,
Okay.
that general.
Yeah.
I don't. Are they right next door to each other, Frank?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
knew he was right there. I just didn't know what I didn't know if it was Jupiter itself or where exactly, but I knew he was at the exact same location. That's our most of the guys are in that area.
Yeah, the one of the guys we have on every now and then is Mike Cole. Mike was the assistant pro at Bentry for years, and he's a good friend of Mr. Nicklaus.
Okay. Well, I'll say I remember back, when I was doing the morning sports, and you were doing the same thing, Don, back in the early '80s, and just every Monday morning you're talking about Jack Nicklaus and what he did at the tournament, and that just ended on Sunday, right? I mean, it was like almost all the time.
He was. I'll tell you, when he was there, and the one thing, that I remember more because he played a white marsh. He won a white marsh, and he always made sure that he came back. If he won the year before, he always came back and was a part of the tournament the following year, just to make sure that that he didn't just walk away from it. And I thought that was always a great. And most of them do it. It's not an isolated situation. Most of the pros really do honor that and come back and support the tournament they won a year before.
Sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, you'd like to have your defending champion come back and tee it up. And yeah, it makes total sense.
Let's jump to the Belmont. That's not the Belmont. I know that Doug, you and I talk about the Preakness. We talk about the Derby. We talk about now. We'll talk about the Belmont. And once again, for those people, and there's so many that are not race fans, the Kentucky Derby was run as it always was at Churchill Downs. But then they went the ball of war, and of course, the Preakness had to move because Pimlico was under construction. And now it's no longer going to be at Belmont because that's under construction and has been for a couple of years. So it's now Saratoga, and it's only a mile and a quarter rather than a mile and a half. It's an entirely different type of situation, a different race. Some of your thoughts about that, Doug, because I know you follow it.
Sure. No, I mean, it makes total sense that, over the course of time, some of these racetracks have to undergo versions of, upgrade to them. You saw Camden Yards, replace their screen out in center field, and they're trying to clean up some of the area community, surrounds, and they do different things. So it applies to most sporting venues. In this case, obviously, we're talking about horse racing. So whether it's grandstands or in some of these cases, maybe it's the turf or the rails or the whatever. I mean, the area in and around Pimlico for the Preakness was well past overdue for, some kind of a spring cleaning. I mean, that place is just not, conducive. I think when you talk about what a, racing gem one of the three should be in terms of the experience people should have. Unfortunately, they compare that to, Churchill, where you have people dressed to the nines and drinking mint juleps and those sorts of things. But, you come to Baltimore and they're running on top of the, Porta Johns, as a racing gig. So, it's not quite the, professional atmosphere I think that they're looking for. I can tell you that many years ago when I guess I went to one Preakness growing up and I was in high school. So, I mean, you could bring whatever you wanted to into that place, coolers and you on the infield, you could see whatever you wanted to see. People were, shotgunning beers, doing keg stands, fraternizing with the opposite sex. I mean, who knows what they were smoking or doing, or you know what I mean? So, it just wasn't, I think, the atmosphere they were looking for, and I think that they started to slowly, clean that up, and then realized we need to do the same with, with the track itself. As far as the Belmont goes, you've got 9 horses. I think Renegade
and the Derby winner is not the favorite.
The Derby winner is not the favorite, correct? I think Renegade is the best horse. Had he not drawn the post position number 1 in the Kentucky Derby, second, but I think he probably would have won that race. Chief Wallaby is another one that's a good horse. Commandment is the horse that I liked. It just kind of got hemmed in there in the Kentucky Derby. He's a really good horse. Obviously, he's got Golden Tempo, who did win. So emerging market. I mean, it's a good field. It's a strong field. This is the longest of the 3, I believe. Typically, I don't know how that plays out at Saratoga, but obviously, I'll be watching that when it comes on.
7:04 goes off, a mile and a quarter. Normally, the normal race at when in fact they do race in New York at Belmont was always the most difficult because it was always a mile and a half, and the horses aren't bred to run a mile and a half any longer.
Unfortunately, with 9 horses, to your point, Don, you've got Renegades 2-1 odds, Chief Wallabies 3-1, Golden Tempo is 9-2. You've got Emerging Market and Commandment at 6-1, and then you've got Growth Equity Power Shift at 12-1, and your number 1 horse is 30-1. So, as far as your betting is concerned, I don't believe that this is going to be, unless one of those higher odds horses seems to sneak into the top 3 or 4. I think you're betting chalk all the way here.
Well, you said Renegade Ortiz Jr. is going to be up, and Butcher, the trainer. So you got a lot of experience in both in the saddle as well as the trainer's quarters.
I read Ortiz as my favorite jockey, so there's a lot to be said about that. But there's some good horses in this. I think if you can catch one of these horses that's 6-1, and I don't know, you throw $10 on it, that's not your only chance here because Renegade gets out of the gate and runs in the 4th spot. I think he wins the race, and then it's not paying much from 2-1 top horse.
Roger.
Yeah, I was just going to say in a little different alignment about this topic that the other night on Jody McDonald's show, a guy called in and they were talking about Don, the old days, but they were talking about the new days, Jody McDonald and Dick Girardi, and then the caller at Philly Park, a woman who they say is a tremendous race caller. But it just brought back memories of you and Hugh Gannon. But I remember one time that the guy, Gene Packard, called him Huge Cannon. But it just brings back those great days in Atlantic City Race Course. I remember we did a night there, or night. Tom Williams was there. They were the great days of racing, but unfortunately, it's a different world, but yet you still have these great races, these three, and it's just a shame that they couldn't work it out to be a little closer to New York. But if you want to go to a beautiful track, you can't do any better than going up to Saratoga, in my opinion.
Well, that's really the playground of the racetrack world, and no question about that. Everybody that's anybody wants to be at Saratoga when the track is open, and it's just a wonderful place to be, and it's a great. The whole Island, Doug, I don't know how many times you've been up there, but it's a great horse atmosphere. I mean, the old time horses that have come and gone, and the Hall of Fame type horses, and the whole. I mean, you just park there, you just walk across the grounds, and you walk into the track. I mean, it's an entirely different setup. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, all the top tracks have quite an experience. It's no different, than when you talk about your upper echelon golf courses and what people experience when they walk onto the grounds from,
right.
Whether it's the greeting of the customer service or the golf shop or the amenities, whatever it is that you're looking for, in those places you'll find it. I used to, as a kid, go to Charlestown racetrack, which was just, at the time, it was a racetrack. There was no, it was, for better or worse, it was a dump. I mean, it was, you had all of your typical gamblers that would sit there and tickets that had been thrown on the ground. And, it was just not, in terms of the crowd. I mean, I think that's why all the states, Maryland had said, we don't want to do off-track gambling, blah, 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 because you're bringing in, different classes of people that are the dregs of society because they think that gambling is the equivalent of that. And so, over the course of time, Charlestown decided to expand, and they put their slots and casino type atmosphere in there. And then all of a sudden you have your guys rolling up in your, Rolls Royce and your Bentleys and whatever, and they're high rollers and they're gambling and doing different things. And they thought that was going to, change the atmosphere there where, look, at the end of the day, certainly on my bucket list, I want to go to, I want to watch the Kentucky Derby at Churchill, live to hear that class of thoroughbred, just, you can feel it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like when I watch it on TV, when I watch the races, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. And when you have, the best of the best that are calling these races and it just, there's just a feeling I get when I listen to it, when I watch it, and I want to see that live to actually just experience how amazing that must be.
Roger?
Well, what brings back memories like that, Doug, Wasn't Charlestown Trotters?
No, no. There are trotters in Maryland, but I believe that's Bowie. Or
Bowie was Trotters. Oh, I didn't realize that. But anyway,
the trotters are just absolutely stupid because, I'm sure Don has, wagered a pretty penny over his lifetime on different sporting events, and when you bet on the trotters, there's a certain pace/gait that the horses need to run within. It's like a cadence.
Yeah.
And if they break that stride, if you will, then they have to go to the back of the race. And it'd be the same as saying, you bet on the 4-horse that's a thoroughbred and it gets out of the gate and the freaking jockey falls off. And, you can't win that ticket even if because those horses, they just run like they don't know any differently. In most cases, when the jockey falls off, the horse he wins the daggone race, but you can't claim that because that's not the way it works. So I don't know. I had a bet on one of these trotters, and I'm like, all right, this is awesome, I'm winning. And then he broke stride, and he had to go to the back. And I'm like, this is dumb as what? And I'm like, I'm not never doing that again because it's what I mean. Like so.
I'm thinking about one of because I used to enjoy it. Mainly at Brandywine. On a Friday night after work, we'd go down Brandywine, have a good time, bet a few bucks, and go home. But then you think about the late great Ray, wasn't it Ray Shotton used to do all the updates from Liberty Bell Park and Brandywine, and he would always call the races, "Here they come."
Well, Libertyville Park, that was owned by the Pittsburgh Steelers owners. So the two boys actually were more involved in running the track than Dad was. He was more just in Pittsburgh and the Steelers and so forth. But the boys owned the track out there, the Trotters, and also in Philadelphia. So we had a lot of fun over there, a lot of years over there, and unfortunately. Has happened in Freehold, New Jersey. That is now a shopping center. No longer Trotters and Freehold, which is only maybe a half hour from me. Well, we went over there a lot.
How about Monmouth?
Monmouth is going strong. No, I know. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Monmouth is still the show place of the summer here at the shore. They go right through Labor Day, and Monmouth Park is wonderful. And now the only problem is they don't get the quality of horse and the numbers of horses in the race. Doug will say this too. I think, Doug, it's a much more interesting race if you have 8 or 9 horses in the field. If you have 5 horses or 4 horses or whatever, it takes away from the sport. And that's what's happening in racing all around the country, unless you go to one of the tracks we're talking about now, that have the big races. Otherwise, the fields are so short that it takes away from the whole idea of what racing is all about.
Yeah, I mean, even in a field of 9 horses in this case, by the time people get done betting, the field is so watered down to, 1 or 2. We'll just say outsiders, if you will, with more than 20 to 1 odds, and the rest of them are going to be single digits. So I mean, if you're a betting person, there's no way to really profit from this.
No, and as I say, the thing is, you just talked about Jody McDonald. Jody's big on racing. I haven't had a chance to talk to him in quite some time, but Jody's very big on it. And you also talked about the writer for the Philadelphia Daily News, who Dick Girardi did a great job of it. We've never had Dick on the show. That's my fault. I should have called him and had him on with us because Dick's been, with the Philadelphia Daily News for so many years, and he's really a racing aficionado. And so we should have had him on by now. But I don't know what he thinks about the change in racetracks and so forth, because I don't get the Daily News because I'm too down to shore. They don't have it down here, so I can't get it. Let's get back to football for a minute. Doug, anything new in the Baltimore area? The Ravens, they start camp, just some of the initial players coming in, the draft guys coming in to work out. What do you got?
Yeah, I think, I do happen to still listen to 105.7 The Fan a good bit, and they seem to broadcast some different excerpts from whether it's the new head coach Minter or one of his coordinators. Declan Doyle is the offensive coordinator. I think the original knock on him was that he's actually 9 months older than Lamar Jackson, and he's the coordinator. So he's never been a coordinator before. And I think initially, I think Baltimore fans were reticent to think, what does he possibly know at this point? But it seems to me, based on the work that they've done and listening to him talk, he seems to be a really highly intelligent individual. He's established already a good rapport with Lamar, and I think that they're working through the installation of his offense. Not exactly sure how that's going to look. He came from Chicago, so multiple tight end sets is probably what we're looking at. Getting back to Derrick Henry running the football. As you know, the Ravens drafted 14th and took an offensive guard from Penn State who's a enormous human being that likes to maul people from the running game concept. I think they've tried to rework their offensive line. We'll see what the rest of that looks like. The Ravens had lost two tight ends to free agency. They lost their fullback, Pat Ricard. And this is a big year for Zay Flowers. Many people regard him in the same light, if you will, that the Atlanta Falcons, if you saw recently, just extended Drake London for about $140 million. And I think many people hold Zay Flowers in that same esteem with his receiving abilities and already a two-time Pro Bowler. So,
Well, I knew we were going to get off a little early tonight, as we did the last couple of weeks before we take this vacation. But one of the things I wanted to talk to Mike Zimzak about, which was to me the most important thing in soccer, not only did they pick a captain for the team, they did win Sunday 3-2, but one of the main players from a defensive standpoint has a bad ankle, and they don't know if he's going to be able to play. But the big story to me is that they've got Gall, which has really been the headline in the New York Post under the business section, and it happens to Rodgers' territory, Atlanta, because that's where the Gall is coming forth fight. And what has happened was tax-funded groups have spent $600,000 in World Cup suite down here in Atlanta for the Mercedes-Benz Center.
Well,
Now this $600,000 in the World Trade at the World Cup suite in Georgia. Now, what can you tell us about this, Roger?
well, what did P.T. Barnum say? There's a fool born every day, every minute, right? But listen, this thing is all about prestige, egos, and Mike said that about everybody's got to get their cut. The New Jersey Transit ticket to go to the Meadowlands, what is it, $120?
No, they lowered it to 90, Roger. They lowered it to 90 and change.
Okay, whereas his
Normally it's $10. Yeah, $10.
Okay. Yeah. So everybody's going to get in on the meal lot. Okay, to get their cut, and they're going to spend the money. And listen. I mean, it's not the easiest place to get to, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I mean, you can get MARTA, but then you have a long walk, just like you did when it was at the World Congress Center. When it was the Dome. And I did it many times, and I've done it. I drove the one time I went to see the soccer game. I guess once or twice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But nothing surprises me, Don, when people want to spend money. And Doug, you've said the same thing about this. I mean, people that just have a lot of money, they want to flaunt it. and they want to have a big show. And that's what this is all about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, according to the New York Post, the CEO, Kevin Duvall, maybe you know who he is, Roger. I do not know who he is. But he later approved a sweetheart deal to get tickets for VIPs. And so they're going to have these tickets at Mercedes-Benz for $600,000. Not a problem at all. Just get it squared away.
He may be Arthur Blank's right-hand man, on the AMG complex, because that includes the United and the Falcons, but it also includes the PGA stores, okay? And which is, a big contributor to the bottom line. I mean, there's a lot of PGA stores, as you know, a number of them here. You have any idea, Doug, how many PGA stores there are nationwide?
No, it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Well, fellas, that's going to do us for this segment. And Doug, thank you very much for holding on. I'm sorry we didn't have Mike on with us to talk soccer, right? Because a lot of things are having a new coordinator for the national soccer front. A lot of things happening with the U.S. team. As I said, they did win Sunday and 3-2, but a couple of players are hurt and a big controversy about the goaltending. But unfortunately, we didn't hear from Jeff tonight, or Mike tonight, so we can't get into that. But anyway, have a great month's vacation, Doug, and we'll get together again. Thank you so much for your time always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Of course.
Take care, Doug. God bless.
All right, Roger, thank you, and thank you all our guests tonight. Everybody did a great job for us this evening, and we got to a heck of a lot of things. Frank, close us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every day of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces and the men and women Police and Fire Services. When you're out there and you see somebody in uniform, please let them know they're there. It's very important. These guys and girls are suffering on the job each and every day. These programs are also dedicated to those who've lost their lives in line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman David Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Patrolman Jeffy Yazowitz, Sergeant Thomas Banger, San Diego Officer Mike Henler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Department, Detective Randy Bell, Detective Ricky Childers, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Patrolman Anafu Crispin, Lakeland PD, Deputy Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Chris LeVake, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Josh Meyer, Nassau County Sheriff's Department, Captain Matt Letourneau, Philadelphia Fire Department, Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Ardith Hope, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Al Hogue, Longwood Beach Police Department, Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol, Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department, Chief Corey Compantier, Battle Creek Fire Department, Deputy Ronnie Ronazinski, Manatee County Sheriff's Department, and Patrolman Zachary Bennett Butterfield, Bradenton PD, and Corporal Timothy O'Connor, Pennsylvania State Police. My brothers and sisters, though you may be 10-7 at this point in time, sometime we'll be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Until that time, may the roads rise up to meet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields and the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your family always in the palm of his hand. Good night, God bless, and we'll see you on the 6th of July.